right, FedSmart, we have some changes happening to the TSP that we're going to talk about on this episode of FedSmart. I'm Jesse Black. We got Steven Puckett here with us. We're going to be breaking down some changes that are happening as of the recording of this call, Steven. Just in a few weeks, TSP is making some big changes that you probably got emails on. If you haven't, you will see an email here soon, and it's probably going to be the talk of the next several weeks and really most of 2026. And then, ongoing, because it's a big part of people's retirement plan, which is taxes. And the change that's happening with the TSP revolves around taxes. So, Stephen, no more tension. Tell the people what's happening. What's the change happening in 2026, January, just a few weeks? What's TSP allowing?
So finally, a lot of people are saying is they are allowing Roth conversions without you having to convert outside the TSP. Because right now, the only way to have a Roth TSP is to contribute to it. You would have had to contribute, have a portion of your contributions go into it. No longer. So come January, you will be able to do in-plan conversions, taking it from traditional TSP and converting into the Roth TSP, no longer having to do like an outside Roth IRA.
In plan Roth conversions. It's happening. The TSP has
Yay.
heard, but we're going to break down the pros and
Big
cons of
butt.
doing a
Yeah.
conversion. Yeah, the big but. Those of you who work for the government, it's kind of normal. A lot of you share with us where it's like big announcement and a but so here's there's some pros and cons. We're going to break it down. We're not going to give you advice. We're going to give you good information where you can make an informed decision, and then also how you can get advice on maybe if you should do a Roth conversion. But after listening to this podcast, you'll have a really good grasp of the pros and cons of both the Roth and the traditional, and conversions inside the TSP and outside, and when you can do a conversion as well without penalties. So we're going to talk through all of that and go through the Roth conversion option that's coming out. So first, for those of you who don't know, the TSP has two different types of accounts. And like Steven said, the Roth TSP has been available for many years now, where you could be contributing a portion or all of your contributions into the Roth. And as of now, the recording of this podcast, the match still goes into the traditional. And unlike individual Roth accounts out there, you don't have to have an earnings limit. Anybody who's an active employee can contribute to the Roth TSP no matter your income amount. And so you've been able to take advantage of the Roth for many years. But for those of you who didn't know about the Roth, and you've been contributing to the traditional TSP for many years and things like that, and you now have a large balance of taxable money, the TSP is going to allow you, with that bucket of money, if you will, that's in the traditional TSP, to take some or all of it and do it over time or in one fell swoop, whatever you want, and take it from your traditional TSP and deposit some or all of it over into your Roth TSP. Even if you don't have a Roth yet, you can create a Roth TSP and convert some of that money. Pay
And if you're
taxes now.
retired too, that's
Yep.
we get that
Yeah.
question a lot. Yep.
Exactly. Active employees can only contribute to it, but active employees and retirees can convert, like Steven's saying. If you're retired and you're sitting on a bucket of taxable money of traditional TSP, you can now convert that right inside of TSP. Go from traditional TSP, boom, over to Roth TSP in plan conversions, and pay taxes on the money now, which is a big thing that we'll talk about in a second. Pay taxes on the money, turn it into Roth. And then once you've had the Roth now for 5 or more years, and you are 59 and a half or older, if you meet both of those requirements, then your Roth balance, Stephen, the excuse me, the contributions plus the earnings are now tax free. I'm so excited. I'm choking. I'm dying over here about the potential of some Roth conversions.
Did you say
And
my name was Feven?
yeah, Stephen, that was when I didn't have all of my oxygen back yet. So I'm going to start calling you Stephen. That's also going to be later on when I have dentures. We're going to know each other for life.
Yeah,
And when I
true.
have
Yep.
dentures,
I'll
you're
I'll
going to
get
be,
used to it early.
yeah, Stephen. So we've got some opportunities for some conversions. But like we said, Should you do it? Should you not? Well, that's a personal thing. We're case by case basis. You may not be able to do it without penalty yet. You may be able to do it without penalty. We'll talk about that in a second. But Stephen, what's one of the first big caveats as far as coming up with the taxes that they need to know about?
So this is the major but here is the fact that you cannot use the T. They won't automatically withhold the taxes within the TSP to do the conversion. You have to pay those taxes with outside funds. So that's a big deal. A lot of people thought, well, okay, I'm going to just convert some money over. They'll withhold the taxes and do the conversion all within your plan. That's unfortunately not the case.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Wishful thinking. It's not going to happen that way. So let's give an example so you know what we're talking about. So let's say of your traditional, we convert $100,000, for example, and let's say that we are in the 22% bracket. So we're going to pay about $22,000 in taxes. Let's not talk about state right now. Let's just talk about federal. Maybe you're in a state that doesn't have state taxes or doesn't tax withdrawals from retirement accounts. So let's say that you move $100,000 or convert, as it's called, $100,000, take it from your traditional TSP and put it into the Roth TSP. If you're in the 22% bracket, you've already achieved the 22%. That's what you're going to pay on that. Let's just say you owe about $22,000 in taxes. Well, with most, no, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of options you can, like Steven said, have it withheld where the taxes are withheld. And so you now deposit 78,000 into the Roth and the 22,000 was withheld and paid to the IRS so you don't have to pay taxes. Well, if we do an in-plan Roth conversion and I take 100,000 from my Roth, or excuse me, my traditional, and I now put it into the Roth, 100,000 is now there in the Roth. And next April, when taxes are due, I have to come up with that $22,000 from savings. Or like a lot of people are asking us, Stephen, can I make another withdrawal from the TSP like the first of the year? Yeah,
Then you
you
got
you
more
sure,
taxes and
yeah.
opportunity costs and everything else with that. Yeah.
Exactly. You could, but you might have to pull, 28,000 or so to net the 22,000 to pay taxes. And now instead of 22,000, I paid the 22,000 plus another 6,000 on my next withdrawal to do that. So you could, but again, you're creating more taxable money and more taxes that you're pulling. And now you're continuing to eat away at your TSP balance because you have to do math. If you guys are close to withdrawing and I'm converting and I lose 22% of my account right off the bat or whatever I convert, how long is it going to take us to make up, that 22% that we just lost in taxes? Is it going to be worth creating some tax-free money? What tax bracket are you in and tax bracket will you be in retirement? If you're going to have a lot less income in retirement, maybe your tax bracket's going to be in the 12% instead of the 22%. So you're converting for naught. And so you want to look at what are my tax ramifications? If I convert 100,000, the other issue is now the IRS looks at your income and looks at it that you made another 100,000 or whatever you convert is now added onto your taxable income for that calendar year. So you could be bumped up a tax bracket. For those of you who are like, sweet, tax-free money, I'm going to convert my whole balance. Well, you could be bumped up in, the 36% tax bracket or whatever. And so whatever you convert is reported as taxable income for that year. And so that could cause, a lot of tax ramifications in the
Unnecessary
year.
taxes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Of what you convert that year. So you want to consider that. Now, if some of you are saying, well, I just retired and I'm in the 12% tax bracket and I don't mind going to the 22. I'm really creeping up there anyway. And, I do think taxes are going to be higher in the future. So I would like to convert some, whatever you want, 30,000, 60,000. Doesn't have to be six figures like we, threw out a couple examples. You can do some conversion and you can have some Roth money and some traditional. If you have a tax professional, they're great to talk to, is it really worth considering doing some conversions? And so if you're still working and you're not retired, you're not separate, you're still working, and you're not 59 and a half or older yet, you may not be able to do some conversions. You want to make sure that you're in a place where you're allowed to do conversions. If you separated the year you turned 55 or older, you can do some conversions without having that 10% penalty. If you separated, you left the government before you were 55 and you try to do some conversions in your TSP, you'll also have a 10% penalty. So you can see why we could run through, 55 scenarios right now on the podcast, and we don't give advice. Everybody should do a conversion. Everybody shouldn't do a conversion. Stephen, when we talk to people right now, we've been talking about Roth conversions for a while, even before in-plan Roth conversions. And it really ends up being almost like 50-50 on,
Totally.
it's really
If
close to
they should do it or
50-50.
not. Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah,
people didn't realize too, they were talking about doing it while they're working. And when you crunch the numbers of exactly what you said, when they retire, they're going to go substantially lower as far as tax brackets go. It makes sense to wait the couple years before you start converting. And then
yeah,
also, like you said, it doesn't have to be all at once. Maybe you do
right.
10,000, 15,000, or depending upon what your goals are over time. So you're not
Yeah.
really bumping your brackets and you're still getting some converted funds.
If you're
And
still working, Stephen, you could also just do some contributions,
yeah, well,
right?
that's exactly what we went through. Just
Yeah,
she didn't have a Roth yet, so she's going to start contributing to establish it. What's nice about that is that's going to start that 5 year window for her. So it'll start earlier than the couple of years she was talking about waiting and then starting Roth when she converts. Another really good thing to look at too, you kind of touched on this. At 55, if you're retiring the year you're turning 55 or over, you can access your TSP, traditional TSP, without that 10% penalty. Roth, you're gonna still want to wait till 59 and a half to get the full tax advantage of it. So again, might not make sense. Say you retire at your MRA to convert it all at once anyway, because then you're not going to get the full tax advantage of it until you're 59 and a half.
exactly. And if you've separated the year you're turning 55 or older for regular FERS, special provisions, you guys have other eligibility to get the money or excuse me, not tax free, penalty free, not tax free, penalty free. Um, there's other eligibilities for you guys. If you're eligible for retirement, basically, you are eligible to not pay the 10% penalty. So what you can do too, if you want to do some conversions and you're like, well, I can't come up with the 22,000 in taxes like Jesse's example, what you can do is you can roll over from the TSP, the traditional TSP, to an outside individual Roth IRA, and you can have the taxes withheld, or you can, withhold the taxes back yourself. But if you're rolling from the TSP, it's going to be withheld or if you do a withdrawal from the TSP, what I'm trying to say, you can have the taxes withheld and then turn around and deposit that into a Roth if you'd like. And so you can not have to come up with that 22,000. You can get around that by having your own individual Roth IRA, take money from the TSP, have the taxes withheld, and then deposit it into the Roth, or you can roll it from the traditional to a Roth, and the taxes will be withheld when you do that. You can pay the taxes on the rollover process so that you don't have to come up with taxes. If you're like, I was really excited about this Roth conversion option, but now I don't have 22,000 in savings, especially to do this every single year where I wanted to do it and couple withdrawals over the next 3 to 5 years and things like that. You can do it. You just put it into an individual Roth account, have the taxes held during the rollover or the transfer at the time of the transaction, and then the net after taxes is deposited into your Roth, and you can avoid with having to come up with the taxes the following April. So that there are ways to go around that if you still want to do that. So a couple good ideas of things to consider to help direct you if it's a good idea. And then we'll give you lastly some ideas on how to get advice. Again, if you're still working and you're years away from retirement, probably instead of doing conversions and lump sum chunks, it's probably better to just go ahead and start contributing to the Roth TSP. And again, that's probable. There's always exceptions. We're not saying everybody, if you're years out from retirement, don't do any conversions. No, you want to consult with tax professionals. You might have, high balances. You might have low income. It might make sense. But more than likely, it's going to make sense to contribute to the Roth instead of doing conversions. Then for other people that are closer to retirement, Stephen, and your tax brackets are going to be, about the same in retirement as it is working, and maybe even higher in retirement with some goals of travels and things like that, and maybe other things, and you believe that taxes could be higher in the future, and you'd like some or all of your money to be tax free in the future, you can start considering doing some lump sum conversions. That's definitely a good option. Maybe inside the TSP because you can come up with the taxes, or outside the TSP because you can't come up with the taxes every April. But if you're in the boat where you believe your taxes are going to be lower in the future, you probably don't want to do a conversion because you're again not really accomplishing what you want. So that's kind of the rule of thumb for a lot of you, but there's exceptions to everything always, and there's things to consider. And you can have obviously convert some just a little bit, just in case they change taxes and the tax brackets when they expire. You want to have some tax-free money just in case. Stephen, we talked to a few people that were like, I think my taxes are going to be about the same, but I'd like to convert, of my, let's say they have a high balance, of my million, I'd like to have maybe 300,000 of it tax free and do that over time, just in case they do change tax brackets in the future. And my million is now not all taxable when I withdraw from it. I've got 300,000 that I could make some decent withdrawals from and keep me in the lower tax brackets, or again, with the taxes being higher in the future. So there's definitely things to consider as far as should you or should you not do it. Instead of going to your armchair advisors, your colleagues and your brothers and sisters, and not that family is bad, but they may not know all the ramifications to consider. It's great to talk to a tax professional and a retirement planner who knows what they're doing and can help give you some advice based on allocations and when you're going to break even, and then also tax professionals that can talk through the tax ramifications for you. So what we would highly recommend is you talk to a tax professional and a retirement professional who knows the federal system and knows retirement really, really well. And if you don't know somebody on the retirement side, you can go to fedsmartretirement.com and you can schedule a meeting with Stephen and I or our team. We've got a lot of great professionals who can help you with that. We can direct you to some tax professionals that can help you decide, is a Roth conversion a good option for me? Is it good to do it inside the plan? Is it good to do it outside the plan? There's a lot to consider. So hopefully that gives you a lot of good information. That the Roth conversion is going to be the talk of the town. Stephen, is there anything that we missed? Any other key details, that generalities that they should
Well,
know?
one of the benefits to Ross too, which a lot of people probably know, is you don't need to take required minimum distributions out of it. So kind of on the
Yeah,
flip side, it could make sense depending upon your goals for tax savings in the future. It's nice not having RMDs come out of there.
yeah,
Beneficiary planning too
yeah.
on Ross can be very helpful. So just little details like that. But like Jesse said, definitely speak with the tax professional in your given state because every state's going to be different as far as taxes go. And
Yeah.
then also you can always reach out to us, fedsmartretirement.com.
Absolutely. Yep, exactly. Good point, Stephen. Yeah, if you want to create some money, you don't have RMDs, and then like Stephen touched on, maybe you're leaving a good amount of money to family and you don't want to bump them up tax brackets. If you leave them Roth money, the Roth money potentially could be totally tax free for them as well when they inherit that. And so again, that's why there's so many different scenarios and things to play through, and your goals and desires are individual and they're specific to you, to your tax brackets, to where you're living, to what money you're leaving, what your goals are in retirement. And so all of that needs to be considered as far as should you do Roth conversions or not. So look into that. We're excited it's at least an option and it can be good for A lot of people, we've already talked to some people, they've got a good amount of money in savings from selling houses or whatever, and they're excited to be able to do some in-plan conversions. And other people we talk to, they're going to be doing some out-plan conversions. And then, of course, we talk to people, they're like, oh, great. Now that I've ran through the numbers, I know that I shouldn't do conversions likely because my taxes, the way that we're set up, are going to be actually lower in the future. And so that's why it's good to talk through it. And we're really excited to put this information out there. And we're excited that the TSP is at least evolving and again, helping some people that can take advantage of those in-plan conversions. If you guys don't fully understand the difference between Roth and traditional, we have a podcast from earlier that we did, I believe it was last year, the late 2024, talking about the difference between Roth TSP and traditional TSP so you can understand all of the nuances. Or you can go to federalretirementcourse.com and you can sign up for our course. And we have 4 or 5 modules that go through the TSP and break down the Roth TSP and the traditional TSP as well if you need additional details there. So we didn't want to take a whole hour and go through all of that, but we have resources to get you guys information on the difference between Roth and traditional. All right, well, we appreciate you guys. Stephen, I think we just hit, believe it or not, 24 million views this year on FedSmart podcast. So you guys are awesome. Our FedSmart community is fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you. We're excited to be able to get information and educate federal employees out there. Steve and I were just talking. We hope to do this for the rest of our life. We hope to have a nice long life of helping federal employees. We enjoy this. I mean, 24 million views. Shout out to all of you guys. That is awesome and fantastic. Our FedSmart community is great and continues to grow. We appreciate every single one of you guys. That's coming up as of the recording of this podcast, the end of the year. We hope you had a great 2025. Can't believe it's already almost 2026.
That's crazy.
We hope your 2026 is your best year yet. If there's any way that we can help make that happen, let us know. Right, Stephen?
That's right. And we'll catch you on the next one.
We'll see you guys on the next one. Appreciate all of you.
FedSmart Podcast is meant for informational purposes only and should not be taken as financial advice or tax advice. FedSmart Podcast is not affiliated with any government agency or OPM. Jesse Black and Steven Puckett offer advisory services through Integrity Wealth. Integrity Wealth and FedSmart are not affiliated. If you'd like an appointment, please go to fedsmartretirement.com and schedule a free one-on-one appointment. Thank you.